Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another live episode of the Sarah Scoop Show. I'm so excited because today Kristy will be joining me. Let me go ahead and add her from Labor of Love. There she is. Thank you. How are you today? I'm doing well.
So you're literally my first Instagram live ever.
That's awesome. I was so excited. I was reading your messages like, yes, let's do this. Yes. That means there's probably going to be lots of questions for you too.
Good. So, well, I've been trying to answer questions. I'm just like totally old school. So I did like the whole Q&A thing, like in stories, so.
Yeah, I loved that. I was looking at some of those because I was just like, you were so open about it. So I know this is going to be an awesome interview. I mean, first of all, let's start. So for those of you that are joining that don't know, Kristy just went on a journey to not only find love, but also become a mom on the Labor of Love. So let's start with how did that come about for you?
Yeah, it's crazy and it's not, honestly, and maybe it's just a little bit of serendipity. It's like, what do they always say about luck? It's sort of preparation. I don't know. It's like preparation meeting opportunity, right? And I think that's really what this was for me. I think for me, I was already on this path of pursuing motherhood. I had just turned 40. I think that's really an iconic age for women on a lot of levels, but I really had to kind of face the reality that time was running out. So I was in the process of looking into this when the show kind of came across my plate. And it's really crazy because I think people don't realize, but it was a whole year of casting for me. Like, I went on with my life. I continued to look into things. In my heart, though, I really felt like this was meant to be part of my journey. And, somehow against all odds, I knew it was going to happen. So in a strange way, when they said, yes, it's you, I was just ready to go. And I saw that as part of my journey and how I would actually get my answers to how I would become a mom. And, fast forward now, it's been a year really since we wrapped the show, and that journey has just continued for me on from there.
So because I think you're right, like 40 is like an age for a lot of women. Like, if you want to become a mom, you may need to take things into your own hands. So what was it about the journey to becoming a mother that you were ready to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to become a mom. I really did. And I always knew that it would probably happen a little bit later for me because I was very focused on my career. That was important to me. I traveled the world. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do. I did not think it would take as long as it did. I think no one really thinks they're going to be in that position. And I think I really have been ready for a number of years, but I think the last few years I sort of hesitated, even though I was looking into doing things on my own, because I really still did want to start a family with someone else. My last couple of years of dating before the show, that was very stressful, because I really did not have time to waste, and so I really had to make decisions about relationships pretty quickly and ask serious questions really quickly. And, I think it put pressure on those relationships, but it put a lot of pressure on me too. I really knew I didn't have a lot of time. So I kind of held out for moving forward because I still wanted to find that. And the show, to me, because it was centered around this journey and the men were selected, were supposed to be in that same place as well. So for me, it felt like really my last chance to maybe make the right connection with someone to start a family with before I moved forward on my own.
So going back to, you get the final approval. I know it's a long process for getting picked to be in that position. Like, what was going through your head that first night when you did have those men there?
I mean, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like, I had been waiting on it for so long, and to a certain degree, it did put a pause on my journey a little bit. So I really had to have a lot of faith in the process, a lot of faith that it was meant for me, which I did. But I was thinking about this for a whole year, basically. And up until, I think it was like the day before I actually met the men, I got to see a few of their profiles. But up until that point, I knew nothing about them. Nothing. I didn't know how many there were going to be. I didn't know anything. So I was really just putting a lot of trust in the process. And, I had to kind of let go a little bit and just be open to what was there, what was happening. But it was scary. It's funny because people, you know, comment a lot that I seem totally confident. And, you know, I don't know. The truth is, like, I was terrified, but I think that's just kind of how I am in my life. And honestly, as soon as I am afraid of something, which I was, to say yes to this, I already know I'm going to do it, because there's no way I'm not going to not do something because I'm scared. Like, that's just not a reason. I think too, with the show, what people might not realize, especially on a first run show, I mean, I filmed a lot, like 21 hours a day, no breaks, 8 weeks. Like, it is literally insane. And so there was an element of that I think actually helped me, because I had to be present. There was no way I could get through it if I wasn't just in the moment, sort of taking things as they came. And that's really what I tried to do. And at the end of the day, I think it really showed me how to stand in my own power, you know, which is something that I think a lot of women you need to learn to do, you know, or like we can struggle with that. But I think sometimes it's when you're kind of, your back's up against a wall, that's where you learn to do that, because it's either sink or swim.
Right. So do you feel like we just got to see the ending pretty soon, but when, like, how long ago was this filmed?
We wrapped like end of April last year. So a little over a year ago. And you know, what's funny too, is really I'm seeing the show. I saw the show for the first time with everyone else. You know, I was obviously there, but we filmed so much. There's so much people will never see. I didn't know how it was going to come together, what was going to be included. I didn't know what the men said when I wasn't around. You know, there's so much that was shocking to me. And yet it wasn't, because time has passed. So I've, of course, learned more things about these men. And really, more than anything, some of the things that I saw in the show gave me really some peace of mind, because I think they just confirmed the choices that I made. And I actually feel really proud of myself for being able to navigate that under really tense circumstances without a lot of information.
Yeah, I mean, you should be very proud. This was like a crazy experiment that you went in. I feel like from a viewer standpoint, you were completely open. We got to really see you. And I think there's a ton of women that are on your journey. So what, going through this whole process, and we'll talk more about the show, because I know when I had put out questions, a lot of people had questions about different things from the show, but also, like, going through this journey, you had already started the journey. Like, what just advice do you have for women that are in the same position that you are?
Yeah, I think the truth is like, I don't want to say you need a reality check, but I needed a reality check. I think, you know, everyone told me not to worry, but I think I knew the reality when I was in my late 30s and circumstances were not there for me to have a baby with someone else. I probably should have froze my eggs then. If I knew then what I know now, I would have frozen my eggs back in my 20s, you know, late 20s, early 30s, because I knew that I would pursue motherhood later in life. So that would be like my number one advice. If you know you want to wait, freeze your eggs. You know, I work with OVA. They're amazing. They purely specialize in egg freezing. So it's an amazing experience, really empowering for women versus making you feel bad. And technology has come a long way. And I think, you know, they even have ways of making it much more affordable and accessible to people as well. So I totally recommend that. You know, other than that, I think what I've done differently is just, I haven't given up. You know, I think there's a lot of instances in my life where things have not gone how I wanted them to. Even this, it's obviously not how I dreamed of becoming a mom, but I've been open to what my life is, you know, and what opportunities are actually coming across my plate. And I think that's a big message I want to give other women. If you know you want something, you really have to be open to how things are unfolding in your life, and be open to the opportunities that you do have to pursue the things that you want, because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to look like you want it to. That does not mean that it doesn't end up being better at the end of the day. And I truly believe that. So I would just encourage people to be open and be willing to take chances on things that they never thought they would, because you just never know.
I know you mentioned earlier you haven't done the live yet, but you should probably be able to see like people commenting too. So kind of like part of this, our show today, we want to involve people too as they have questions. So everybody, if they have questions, we don't have to stop. But if you do see something, like I saw a couple of people were confused about, you actually did freeze your eggs before you started the show. Right?
I did do a round before the show, but it was right before the show, you know, keeping in mind that it was kind of when I turned 40 that I had that moment of, yep, I got to do something. The show kind of crossed my path after that. So I actually did a couple additional rounds after we wrapped, you know, and that's one thing. The older you are, you know, for me, I was lucky my levels were good that we could proceed, but you do have to do more rounds. The truth is, it just takes more to get enough eggs, and there's, you know, there's attrition as you go to make embryos. So it's just a longer and more expensive process the longer you wait. So yeah.
Well, it's awesome that you are doing it and being so open, because I mean, I see people commenting that you are a strong person, you know, doing this on your own. And
so much,
I know
Becca.
there was a lot of people were messaging that too on our little questionnaire before this. So I just think what you're doing is incredible, to even just be brave enough to put your whole story out there, because sometimes it's a little scary to not do things by the book way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, I will say, you know, maybe that's just one of my strengths. Like I am traditional in a lot of ways, I am, but I've never been afraid to sort of just walk my own road. I'm totally good with that. And maybe that served me well here. And I think the more you know what you stand for and what you want, the easier it is to do that. You know, it's interesting. And I do appreciate that people say that, because, you know, again, I had a year to be in this process and really think, like, can I handle this? Because the truth is, you're putting yourself on TV, you're going to get ripped apart, period. You are. Now, I've been like so pleasantly surprised at the outpouring of support from women. I think I've cried so many happy tears, because in my wildest dreams, it's what I had hoped. And it was the big push for me to say yes. Like, of course, this was my journey and it was helping me along my journey. But I thought I can either feel alone doing this, or I can be open and share this with other women so that they don't feel alone, because I know how they feel. I knew that could come with a lot of criticism and people judging me based on nothing really, you know, but it worked out. You know, it's not to say that I don't get those things, but the outpouring has been so amazing. It's beyond what I hoped for. I mean, I hoped that I could connect with women. I hoped that we could stand together. I hope that we could have conversations about this, because a lot of women are dealing with this, and this is just going to continue to be the case. I never dreamed the support would be as strong as it has been. So that makes everything else more than worth it. It really does. It really helps me weather so much, and I'm so grateful for it. And, you know, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Women are amazing.
That's amazing to hear that, like, you're getting so much positivity from all of this.
Okay, I see a question about, can I answer this question real quick? So I'm just answered a question about after my first transfer. Yeah. And so this is something I can relate to, just like we've had a heck of a 2020, right? I think talk about everything happening this year that no one could have saw coming. And this goes back to kind of what I would do differently. And it's hard to know until you go through it. I think even before the show, I was ready, but hesitated, because yes, I wanted a partner, but also because I wanted to make sure I was 100% ready in every way, emotionally, time, job, financial. And I really was, but I had this notion in my head that when I decided that I was ready to try and get pregnant, that I just would. I did. And so this even speaks to the IVF, even that process of having to do more egg freezing afterwards. I didn't really understand how lengthy the process was. So for me, I did a couple more rounds. Of course, Kyle and I's relationship ran its course. So then I moved in a different direction, finding a sperm donor. I ended up having to have just like a minor procedure done going into the IVF. So it postponed things. So I really started the active IVF in January with the February transfer that was unsuccessful. We started a second one, and then COVID hit. And so all non-essential procedures were shut down. Now that window has opened again. I know people have asked me, but I am in the process of moving back to Chicago. My doctor's in Chicago. My support team's in Chicago. I do have limited embryos, so I'm being very careful, under the advisory of my medical team when we want to start that. And, I think there's a lot of unknown with COVID, so I've been a bit cautious with that as well. So that's where I'm at there. And then someone just asked to piggyback on that, are you open to adoption? Yes, absolutely. And that's something that I've looked into in the past as well. So, the journey in a lot of ways has kind of just started for me. Like, I'm in it right now. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I want to become a mom. So I'll continue on that path until the answer, sort of comes in the way that it's meant to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's all going to work out, right? You got to stay positive, and eventually whatever's supposed to happen, I know you have to take control, but it sounds like you are, and going towards what you want.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
You can only do what you can do, right? But I think you have to try. I think if you don't try, you absolutely will not get what you want. I think again that goes to just being open-minded. Like I'm choosing to pursue this the way that's best for me, but I'm open to different options, including adoption, if that ends up being the answer for me. So I guess I'm just preaching like open-mindedness, roll with the punches. You probably have so many more opportunities on your plate than you realize when it comes to anything. It's just, what are you looking at? And I've certainly been in that place too. I think I've just gotten to the point in my life where I'm aware of things that are available to me that maybe at one point I wouldn't have seen because it's not what I wanted in my head.
right. So going back to that, like being open-minded, do you feel, I know it didn't work out for you this time, but do you think that the reality TV path is a way to find like love and
I do.
all of that?
Yeah. I mean, I have no regrets. I think for me, it was my last push for a relationship. It made a lot of sense because these men were being chosen based on at least their input, that this was the same place that they were at in their life. For me, I didn't see a better way to date on the timeline that I was on than having those men chosen for me and vetted for me. It didn't work out. You know, I think I said from the beginning I was prepared to do this on my own, and I would never move forward with having a child with someone if I wasn't like 200% sure. You know, if I was going to go that route, you know, I would do that with a friend, or, you know, an ex that I still talk to, you know, that I would explore that option with them versus someone that I just met on reality TV. That being said, like none of us knows when love is going to strike or where we're going to meet our person. And when people say like, why would you think reality TV? I think, why not? Like I was 100% genuine. I was completely honest and open through the whole process, including casting. So in my mind, I felt like if I was chosen, this was meant for me. And all I can do is be open, be honest, give it everything I have. And because I did that, I totally trust in the outcome. And it's why I have no regrets now. And so I always say, like, I might have not got the story I wanted, but I did get the answers that I needed. And for me, that was, okay, I'm going to pursue motherhood on my own. And I still want a partnership. I still want a relationship, but it takes the pressure off of that. And that will just happen for me when it happens, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you stay in touch with any of the men from your season?
I mean, some of them, like we've talked periodically, you know, it's an interesting thing because there's confidentiality after the show. So, you know, technically we're not supposed to spoil outcome to each other. You know, I've always say like, I'm very open to friendships with anyone. And this is like even outside of the show, but I do have expectations of, you know, honesty and sincerity. So as you imagine, there's maybe some muddy waters around that when it comes to reality. So, you know, I'm just protective of myself too, because for me, I can tell you 100% this is real and this is my actual life. So I think a lot of these guys kind of did the show, it was the show, they moved on with their life. For me, this is my life. So there's been no separation between the show and my life. So I'm very protective of that, you know, particularly because we are talking about a baby, you know. So I guess like my motherly instincts have kicked in already.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, I think that's like, people are just always curious, you know, where you stand after filming ends, if everyone just kind of goes back on to their lives, and it sounds like you are living your truth and your life.
Yeah, I've always been open to it. You know, I think the guys have really kind of band together. You know, there's truths I've learned this year, you know, that I think are what they are. But I do talk to some of them still, you know, and those are the men that have reached out to me through this year and supported me on my journey. And I do appreciate that because no one can really understand what it's like to go through something like this. You really can't, unless you've been through it. So for me, it is important to keep some of those relationships because they truly are the only ones that can really understand what it was like to do something like this.
Right. So what was your favorite part of doing the show?
Ooh, it's so hard to say because honestly, it was all so hard, but so amazing. You know, I think, I don't know what it's hard. It really is hard for me to say my favorite part. I think honestly, like I'll say there's two different ways for me to answer that. I do love the drills. I didn't know how the show was going to be kind of set up. And I thought this was so smart what they did with having these drills that sort of tested parenting skills. Mm-hmm. For me too, truthfully, there's things that I did in those drills that you didn't actually see air. When do we ever get an opportunity to really see what anyone else is like as a parent, or what we ourselves would be like? So I thought it was fun and funny at moments, but it was actually like really profound and really amazing, like to kind of get to experience that. So I think that was really cool. And I think it was something different than we've seen. I think for me personally, honestly, my favorite part was just like really learning how to own my own space. It's kind of like what we talked about in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I knew the process was going to be hard. I had no idea how hard it was going to be. And I would have been completely terrified had I known, but I was in it and I had 8 weeks that I was going to, have to navigate. So I do feel incredibly lucky that I had that experience, because I've taken that from the show. I think I've always, been kind of a boss babe, and I've made things happen for myself, but I have never believed in myself more than I do now. And it's because of that journey I took, because it pushed me beyond my perceived limits. So really getting to experience that you truly are stronger than you think, I think is probably the most invaluable gift from the show. And a lot of the men will probably say the same things. I mean, we push them, obviously, like you see that. And these are men who are successful and they've done a lot in their lives. And I think a lot of them have said the same thing. Like they really were pushed beyond their comfort zone and have come out of it in a better place. And I would agree with that 100%.
And then something else. So on the show, Kristen Stewart was kind of like your guide through this journey. What was it like working with her, or, kind of working with her?
Yeah, it was crazy because like of all the things, like everything I didn't know Kristen was going to be the host. There's no previous right? So everything's a surprise to me, which is both amazing and terrifying all at the same time. But when I opened the door and it was Kristen, I was definitely freaking out, because I think I was in my 20s in the Sex and the City era. I love it just as much now. And actually in quarantine, I've like rewatched the whole series, and it's like, wow, at 42, I love it as much as I did in my, 20s. Mm-hmm. And Charlotte was my girl. I was a Charlotte. So I was sort of just like, okay, I'm going to hang out with Charlotte for 8 weeks. If nothing else works out, this is good. I'm good. And, so I think that was cool. And then, Kristen herself, I think it was really important that a woman host the show. I think that's extremely important to the concept of the show. Kristen's really a great woman to do that, whether you're talking about Charlotte or just what she's gone through in her own life. She has pursued motherhood on her own. So I feel like she truly has walked in my shoes. And she really was the only person I had with me. The guys had each other. They had a lot of producers. Like, it was like me and Kristen. That was my journey, most of the time. So that person becomes very important, because you don't have phone, you don't have TV, you are in this vortex. I was like literally by myself all the time. So to have someone to kind of talk through things with was really, really important. And you don't see a lot of it, but even like before eliminations, you see a clip of what we talk about, but really we probably talked for 2 hours before each elimination.
Wow. Yeah.
About
and
everything
I have to correct myself really quick, because someone commented, I totally said Kristen Stewart, because someone's comment said
I didn't
Kristen
even notice.
Stewart.
Davis.
Kristen
Stewart would be funny.
Who we met. Yeah. Someone else just commented. Yeah, I was trying to read their comments, and that was my bad. Kristen Davis.
Yeah, we have a lot of Charlottes out there. I know Charlotte was the best. Totally team Charlotte.
Yeah. So, did anyone influence your decision besides just yourself?
No, well, I said this, but so a friend and mentor of mine is actually the one that sent me the casting call. So it didn't come from anyone in the industry. And she and I have a very close relationship, and she's guided me on a lot of things in my life, and especially through difficult times I've gone through. So I probably would have said no. In retrospect, I think perhaps someone had sent me the casting previously, and I just ignored it. But because Debbie sent it to me, I was like, okay, I'm interested. And It was funny because I applied and I think that they called me later that day to do an interview, and I was just like, okay. And I think I was just really non-detached from it, to be honest with you. I was like, if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And then the further I got along in the process, I felt like it was mine. You know, I was like, I am supposed to do this. This is part of my journey. And it worked out that way. But no, really. And my family, you know, bless them, because honestly, the last thing they want to do is be on TV. And, you know, truthfully myself, like I was a super shy girl. I was very, very shy. So I, you know, kind of laugh now because I would have never thought in a million years I would ever go on TV. Even now I'm very open, but I'm actually a pretty private person. So it's kind of interesting, but I believed in the message of this show so much that I, you know, I just able to push through all that. And my family is just really supportive, honestly, of anything that I do. And I feel like I'm really lucky because they're very open-minded, and that's probably where I get it. They trust me. So if I'm coming to them and saying, hey, I want to do this, they're going to say yes. And they're going to be like, what do you need? Because they know me and they trust me. And I think my family knows I will be a great mom. You know, they've wanted this for me for a long time. So I think for them too, they thought, yes, this is how it's going to work out for her. So that was it. I really had no pushback from anyone in my life, just total encouragement. And that has continued, you know, to this day. But the truth is they've done that to me no matter what, whether I'm high, whether I'm low. Like, they're my biggest fan and believe in me 100%. And the more I get along in life, I realize how lucky I am to have that, honestly.
Yeah. So, and of course, like, you'll be able to do that with your future children.
Yeah.
And
that's the good thing, you know, about becoming a mom later. Like, it's hard. And even will tell you, like, going through the process, IVF and all that is very, very tough. I think the thing I do feel really grateful for is I'm very ready for it. I've done a lot in my life. So I'm really happy to kind of shift my focus in life. I do feel like I've been through a lot and I've learned a lot. So, you know, I hope I can pass that on to my child. That's the upshot. You know, that's the things I feel like really grateful that because my story has gone how it's gone, I do have those things to offer my own child.
So as you continue your journey, will you be sharing updates and continuing to be open for people to follow along on like a certain platform or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm about to start into, I'm moving back to Chicago next month. So I'll be starting another cycle of IVF. And it's actually funny because I have a call with my doctor today to go over everything. So I'll be definitely giving updates about that. You know, I think as long as people are interested, you know, I'm really open about sharing because I think it's really important. And truthfully, like, I've gotten so many even just private messages from women of sharing their own story, and that means so much to me. I know it's a difficult thing to do, but it also just tells me this is happening, you know. And I think it's a scary thing to talk about. It's a scary thing to share. It's very personal. It's very vulnerable. And I feel like if I can help remove some of the barriers there because I'm willing to talk about it, I'm 1,000% happy to do that, you know. So I definitely plan to continue to share updates on my journey, which is continuing like very, very soon. I get to get back to it. So
I wanted to ask you about one of the contestants who you've probably got a bunch of DMs about, but there was a lot of people wanting to know kind of like where you and Stuart stand, or if you even talked to him. I know that was probably hard watching, or like just watching it. It was, I'm sure living it was extremely hard, letting him go after all that time. So a lot of people are curious kind of where you and Stuart stand.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get why people are curious. Again, a reminder, over a year has passed. Stuart and I have certainly talked. I think he's a wonderful person. I wish him very well, but I do stand by my decision. I think what I've said post-show is very true. You know, there was so much I loved about Stuart, and we really did seem perfect on paper. But the truth is, even watching it, truthfully, I found myself getting very wistful and like caught up in the our romance. But the truth is, in reality, there was something that did not feel real about it to me. It did not feel like the feelings were actually there, and I couldn't move past that. I wanted to because it seemed so right, but in reality, it didn't feel right, and I trusted that. and I feel like I made the right call. Now, I had questions about Kyle. I did. The truth is I got to the end of the show and I felt personally really sad and disappointed, because I even said this to my sister in the Meet the Families. You know, I thought when I got to this point, I would be more confident about my decision. And I really had put everything I had into this and didn't hold back. And it felt really sad to me that I didn't feel that way. However, I felt like I had two good choices, and I came very close to walking away alone, I'll be honest, but that isn't what I wanted. That's the thing I said I didn't want. And so I felt like I had two good choices. The relationships maybe were not as developed as I had hoped. I mean, it's a lot to happen in, you know, the amount of time we filmed. But I wanted to take a chance with one of these men and see the process all the way through so that I can know for sure the way I wanted to move forward with motherhood. And I think I chose Kyle because at the time, with the information that I had, that relationship felt the most real to me. I maybe had questions about our personalities meshing or our lifestyles being different, but our relationship felt the most real. And at the end of the day, I thought that was really the best piece of information I had to choose someone and give it a real shot. And
yeah,
I stand by
think
that.
and I think that's what is so empowering about you, is you are very real, and this is, I think, following whatever path is your path is the way to do it.
Yeah, I do want to jump on this question I'm seeing right now, because I've gotten this a lot too about why I didn't answer Stuart's question about biracial children. I did, actually. I think what people have to remember is you're seeing like a 27-second clip of what was probably an hour conversation between Stuart and I. So that's one thing I want to say. However, I have since addressed that too, to say I own it a little bit, because the truth is I was nervous about answering that question because I didn't want my words to be misconstrued, which of course has happened. At the time, and again, this was over a year ago, before anything that's happening was happening, I thought it was enough that I didn't see a difference in our children, like in my children, whatever ethnicity they were. I really felt that. To me, it didn't matter. Now, Stuart and I talked about it a lot more than what you see. I've owned now that was naive. That's not enough. You know, there are real issues that go beyond what I feel. Of course, they would be our children. So, you know, what we thought mattered very much, but I do own that part. You know, I continue to learn and grow as a person like anyone else. And I realized for me to just say, hey, it's not an issue for me is not enough. And so that's not how I navigate things now. And that was something that was a learning process for me. But I think that's been hard, because I think the truth is I did address it and we did talk about it. And if Stuart and I had ended up together, we would have had many more, you know, conversations about how we wanted to handle those things in private. You know?
And I do think it's a good point you made earlier. You said, you know, you were filming for 20 hours a day or whatever it was. I mean, we only get to see a short episode. So even if there was more that was said on that topic or others, it's like, we just get a little bit.
I was so exhausted at that point too. People have no idea. Like, I was like walking on me. But the truth is, I've owned that too. I said, listen, like, you know, we did talk more than what you see. And it was a really important conversation to have, but we were not always in control of the time we had to talk. In retrospect, I wish I would have pushed for more time or brought it up again, you know, after that. In my head, I had felt like Stuart and I talked about it. It was never an issue for me. And so I didn't at the time feel like it needed to be brought up, because we were also focused on our relationship and, you know, had just a little bit time left in the journey to decide if we were the right fit for each other or not.
Right. And I think that's important too, because you want to be a mom, but when you have a dad involved like that, it's like you want to make sure that you're both also getting along. So I think that's really awesome of you to recognize that.
Yeah, thanks.
So with the show wrapping up and everything, and we're getting to see it, and hopefully there'll be a season 2, do you have like advice for the person that may be in your shoes?
I do hope there's a season 2. I really do, because I feel like I really want this message to keep getting put out there until it becomes more normalized, because it is normal, you know? are. You have to trust your own gut. You know, there's so much that I saw watching the show that I never knew. There was gameplay, there was stuff going on, and that can be hard to see. But I think if you trust yourself, women are very intuitive. If you know what you want and you trust what you feel, you will be. Advice is to be real, you know, and don't hold back. I think that's the one thing that I can say, and why I don't doubt my decision now is I was 100% myself. I was 100% honest, genuine, and open, and I left it all in the field. I did not hold anything back. So the beauty of that is, even if things don't work out how you had hoped, I do not have to question what would have been. This is how it was meant to be for me. So it's hard. I mean, you know, you are talking about sensitive things. I was stressed out all the time. Every situation I walked into, I did not know what was happening. People think that I knew what I was walking into. I did not, but I had everyone looking at me like I should know. So it's going to be a lot, you know, but I think you have to not hold back. I guess that would be my like short answer. Do not hold back and trust yourself, no matter what people are telling you. Trust yourself, because you know.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I feel like that's advice that you're sharing could be used in all aspects of people's lives.
Yes. Yeah. I think the kind of strange thing about this is, like, I actually get to see what happens. Like in real life, I would never really know what these men said behind my back, or I wouldn't have other pieces to the puzzle. So it's been an interesting journey for me to kind of watch it and be like, oh, wow, I was like more right than I even realized. Right. You know, so that has given me more confidence in trusting myself. You know, I think it's really easy to doubt ourselves. I think for women, especially, we can be our own worst critic a lot of times, myself very much included. So I think for me to kind of get that validation that no matter what I was being told in the moment, I wasn't wrong, has been really powerful. So I would encourage other women to like really tune into themselves and make decisions for themselves, you know, not on what anyone else is saying or what looks good or what should be right. You can only live your own life. So do it for you.
Yeah, that's amazing, Kristy. Let me make sure, if you want to see if there's anyone that we missed, if you want to answer any of these questions, but I will.
Yeah, Walker, that's funny. Walker and our friends. He's one of the guys that has really reached out to me over this last year. So I definitely appreciate his friendship. Thumbs up. Thanks.
Yeah, I just love the positivity that you're getting from the show, and like even in this chat. And let's see if there was any that you missed that you wanted to answer, because I know you've given us a lot of time and a lot of like amazing just advice. I feel like it's very empowering to hear your story and to get to share it with everyone. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I think it's just like, you know, the message is just don't let anyone write your story. You know, just don't. There's a million people that want to tell you how to do it. I promise you, at the end of your life, you'll look back and think, why did I listen? Like, you have to write your own story, you know? So I really hope that other women will do that and realize that there's probably so many other women out there like them that are going through the same thing. They just don't know. And I really hope this opens up that conversation. If nothing else, just for women to realize they aren't alone, and it's okay to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't do anything wrong. What I'm super proud of is that you're willing to take a chance on something different, because it isn't easy, and it's so easy to give up. So those people that don't, like, whatever happens, like, be proud of yourself, because that is the harder path to take, for sure.
And I know that you're talking, okay, so one person did ask, because this is a good question, what advice do you have for women still looking for love? Because there's a lot of women that want to be moms, or, you know, you were kind of doing both in this process.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard, and I totally get that. And honestly, like, it's something that I'm thinking about a lot right now. I've been very focused on motherhood the last year. People have asked me, have you dated since the show? No, I haven't, because my focus has been totally on motherhood, and I wouldn't even know how to navigate that. Be like, hey, by the way, I'm going through IVF. You know, like, what was the Jennifer Lopez movie? I can't remember. The Backup Plan. I'm like, I always thought maybe that's how I'm going to have my story. It's going to be like The Backup Plan. I'll be on my way out of Dr. Kaplan's office and meet the love of my life. Why not? You know,
hey, it could still happen.
You know, and it is hard, but I think, you know, that's too, where if you do freeze your eggs, like you do buy yourself time, take the pressure off, that you can, you know, keep looking for love if that is ultimately what you want. For me, I had just drawn the line that if this didn't work, I was moving forward. I'm 42. But it does mean that I've stepped back from dating. And that will probably be the case for a little while. Like, I'm still open to meeting someone. And if that happens, that happens. It's just that I've shifted my focus, and I personally am okay with that. It doesn't mean like I don't get sad about that sometimes, because I still want that, but this is what's most important to me right now. So in a weird way, it takes this pressure off. It feels like a nice break from worrying about it. And I have something to focus on that I'm really excited about. And I just know in my heart that the other piece will fall into place. And like, for maybe the first time in my life, I've just taken the pressure off of that. And you know, sometimes that's when it happens, right? So we'll see.
Exactly. Well, Kristy, you have been amazing to talk with. I could talk to you all day long. I feel like you have so much advice, and just thank you for being someone that people can look up into and like look up to and open up with your journey. It's really just very amazing to watch. I'm glad that they did Labor of Love so we could all see you and your show and all of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for breaking me into Instagram Live.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, we are going to have to chat again soon when you've got that baby, because we are going to want to hear all the updates.
Definitely. Thank you, Sarah.
So, thank you, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.